everyone, I'm just doing a quick little video for you today. I get asked more often than any other question is, how do I get started with yoga? Where do I start? So I just wanted to drop in today and film a quick little video with my 5 tips for how to get started with a yoga practice. So tip number 1, cultivate a home practice. So whether you choose to do this as your very first thing or if you choose to integrate it later on in your overall practice is totally up to you. I started with my home practice. So I recommend the very first thing that I did is I picked up the Yoga Bible, which is a definitive guide to yoga postures by Christina Brown. So I didn't really have enough money to start off with a yoga membership or go to a gym or afford classes all the time. So I started with my home practice, and this book teaches you everything that you need to know to get started with yoga. I still have my little bookmarks and notes in here. So highly recommend if you're going to start with a home practice, getting this book. It breaks down how to do a yoga practice. It's great. It breaks down every component that's important for a yoga flow to have. So on that note, tip number 2 is learn the basics. Learn your sun salutations, your Surya Namaskar. So I also have a video on here for mastering Surya Namaskar. So if you would like to flow with me and flow through sun salutations, then definitely visit that video. So tip number 2, once again, is learn the basics of sun salutations A and B. And there are different styles of yoga, so it's okay. Just choose the one that you like the best. I was taught Dharma yoga styles, so that's the type that I like to teach. But there's also other styles out there. So just do what works best for you and memorize that flow, and then you have a really good foundation to start building your practice from there. Yoga flows, you want to always try to include a forward fold, a back bend, a balancing pose, a standing pose, and a side bend, and an inversion. And am I forgetting anything? A twist. So Surya Namaskar includes most of those things. So that's why it's a really good foundational flow to learn. And then you can start to build in from there and add things like a twisting chair or a little inversion. Down dog is also an inversion, so you already have one, but you can start to build your practice and do more advanced poses from there. So that's tip number 2, learn the basics. Tip number 3 that helped me in my yoga class and my yoga practice is pick 1 or 2 big, hairy, audacious yoga goal poses. So set some small goals just for yourself. If you see a pose out there that you really want to achieve, then start structuring your flows around how to strengthen for that pose. It'll give you some direction, it'll give you something really clear to work on. So what I hear a lot is, I have no idea where to start or how to get started. So pick a pose. For me, when I first started, it was crow. The first time I ever did crow, I was able to do it, but it was really shaky. It wasn't very quote unquote good. I could technically get up, but I didn't have a lot of the foundational strength to hold myself there and feel really good in the pose. Another one that I really wanted to do was headstand. So I just started working on those things. I started strengthening my arms, I started strengthening my abs, and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. And now those are 2 of the easiest poses in my practice, and it's because I integrated them as often as I could. And now my big, hairy, audacious goal for this year is pincha, or peacock pose. So that's a forearm balance. I'm slowly getting there, 1 day at a time. But yeah, that's what I really like to do to give myself direction. So tip number 3, set a goal pose for yourself. Tip number 4 is if you have the resources, the time, the money, or the ability, whether you purchase a membership or just do drop-in classes here or there, I do highly recommend going to yoga studios and trying out different styles of yoga and different teachers. So if you can only do it on YouTube, then bounce around on YouTube, try different instructors. I like to do classes on YouTube with different instructors, and same thing for in the studios. So you might think that you don't like yoga, but what you actually didn't like was the style of the teacher who taught it, which is totally fine. I've had people walk out of my class or come to one and never come back. It doesn't hurt my feelings because I've been there. I have been to many classes where the instructor was perfectly nice and the class was perfectly good, but I didn't feel super connected. And I think that that is a really important piece of yoga. When you cultivate your home practice, tip number 1 is learn the poses and the types of flows and the things that really resonate with you, and then look for those things in instructors when you go out into yoga classes. Look for people whose style you really like, who you look up to, who you feel connected to, so that they can help guide you on your yoga journey. That was really important for me. My favorite yoga instructor, her name was Kristen. She changed my life. And she introduced me to everything that yoga could be. And I wound up getting certified to be a yoga instructor because of her, really. I've had other instructors who I truly love. I really like to do Kundalini yoga. I don't teach it, but it is a style that really resonates with me. So go out there, try it all. And last but not least, tip number 5, which is usually the scariest thing for people, is get comfortable being still. I'm gonna pause and let that sink in. What does stillness mean to you? And I use the word still because I hear a lot from people who quote unquote don't like yoga is that they can't meditate or they can't stop thinking. Thoughts are built into the structure of our brain. They're normal. It's normal to have thoughts when you meditate or sit in stillness, but get comfortable with being still and being quiet, and don't put so much pressure on yourself if you have thoughts during your meditations. Count your breaths, get a mala bead, count the beads, do anything in your meditation, chant Rama, Dasa, Sa, Se, So, Hung, chant on your breaths, do anything to give your monkey mind some direction. It's the same thing with setting a goal for your physical, for your asana practice. Set a goal for yourself when you sit in meditation. Think, I am going to count my breaths today 1 to 10 and 10 to 1, and I'm going to do that as many times as I can. Don't set a timer. Don't worry about how long you sit in stillness for. Just do it and see where it takes you, and don't worry so much about having thoughts. Just sit in stillness. Thank you for listening to me. Those are my top 5 tips for how to get started with a yoga practice. And if you want to learn how to master Surya Namaskar A and B, then head over to that video now. Drop a comment if you find these tips to be helpful, and like and subscribe and join me on your yoga journey. Thanks so much.